Hello and welcome to episode 324 of Sutton Impact Family Style. I'm Jason.
I'm Bill. And my highlight today was watching ESPN and seeing my former student Brian Wright, the general manager of the Spurs, with Victor Wembanyama on the press conference. I thought it really made me feel cool because this was a good guy when he was a student, and he's worked hard. And now he's the general manager of the Spurs, and he's about to launch the best part of his career. It was really fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, as long as he stay healthy, it's hard to imagine him not being a giant star as has success in women.
No, I was blown away by how polished he is for how young he is.
Yeah.
And how he's very good media wise. And I was also impressed that he told a story about that he had dinner with Duncan and David Robinson and Ginobili and a few other players, and they talked to him about San Antonio, what it's like to play in San Antonio. And I just think this is just why this is the perfect place for him to be. And when I worked at the NBA, San Antonio was one of the teams I worked with. And it's a very, very, very passionate fan base and knowledgeable fan base that's really excited about basketball. I mean, that's the pro team in San Antonio. And it's been there for, probably 60 years.
Yeah.
It started off as an ABA team. But they've had a lot of great success, and, they'll be patient and because they know how that team works and how it's been built. So all around, we've talked about the last couple of weeks, perfect landing spot, and I've been extremely impressed with him.
Yeah, he's and again, I saw Windhorst told a story about how he was interviewing him, and the guy, he said when Wembanyama said when he was 12, I want to be an NBA player, and he did everything like from, you hear him talk like he's got barely an accent at all,
Yeah.
He's really he's decided he wanted to be an NBA superstar, and obviously he's got the physical gifts to do so, and he's really just embraced it all. It seems he's got the right attitude. And if you watch his highlights, like you can see stuff that you just, you can't teach 7'5" with over an 8-foot wingspan. Like,
And a feathery jump shot.
And he dribbles low for a guy his height, which is still higher than the average person, but he's got a nice all-around game.
Well, I'm going to look forward to watching some summer league games, which I usually wouldn't care about, but I'm going to watch them now.
Yeah. And for people watching, he is going to get exposed and dunked on from time to time because he's going to, if you're a young player, like that's your target. Like that kid he played at USC. He's like the big 300-pounder that sort of abused him a little bit, but keep in mind he's 19. He's just going to keep getting better. So, yeah. But right now,
and that you can make your name, or you could stick around a little bit if you could show you could deal with this guy. So
yeah,
he's got definitely has a target on him.
And again, if there's nobody you'd rather posterize in the league right now than him. Like if you're a dunker, you're looking at him. Because again, that's going to be on SportsCenter, that's going to be on TikTok, that's going to be all over the social media as I dunked on Wembanyama. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what else did you like about the draft?
That's a good question. I think it all went pretty, like you said, the guy that went to the Heat seems like the perfect Heat guy.
I loved him at UCLA, and I think he's going to be a great fit there. I was probably a little surprised to see him go 18.
Yeah, and Cam Whitmore went 20. Depending on what you know about his medicals, or apparently he's got a very low key, he is not the kind of person that walks in the room and lights it up with his smile. Kind of he's a very low key, kind of chill person. So he doesn't blow you away in interviews. He's not walking. That's I've read from all the experts. Is he just doesn't blow you away. He's kind of a shy, introverted kid when he's talking, not when he's playing. But to get that talent at pick 20 is pretty crazy.
Well, I watched Pardon the Interruption this week, and Tony and Wilbon were talking, and I agree. I don't think there were 60 players better than Drew Timme. Not 60. I thought he had, I was told he wasn't going to get drafted, and that was true, but I still have to say, after having watched him play, and having watched him play against UCLA, which was the best game I've seen in years, I don't know. I don't understand it, but we'll see.
And he was
somebody will probably sign him and bring him to camp.
Yeah, and
or somebody probably already did sign him and bring him to camp. I don't know.
He's technically the second Naismith player never to get drafted, and the first one was Edie, who went back to college, so you can't really count him as he wasn't eligible. And again, you just figure that late in the draft, like, why is he not picked 55, right?
Yeah, I don't understand it.
Because at some point, because you feel like once you get past like pick 40, it's a crapshoot no matter who you're taking. Whether you're taking the athlete with upside, the guy whose jumper you think you can develop, whatever it is, and why not take the guy that's proven he can get it done against, despite a lack of, off the chart measurables, and his spark score isn't what you want it to be. Like at some point, it's a little bit like T.J. Warren, who has made a nice career for himself in the NBA, right?
Right.
Doesn't have any, like, he just can score. But people ignored it for a long time in the draft for whatever reason.
Yeah, I mean, look at the couple guys on the Heat.
Yeah.
That weren't drafted, and he tells. I think he's better than either of those guys.
Agreed.
I don't know.
Yeah. It's hard to say. I mean, I guess the biggest story coming out of the draft, without a conclusion, is Scoot Henderson, who was a lot of people's favorite player in the draft outside of Wembanyama, went to the Blazers. And Scoot Henderson is he's a 6'2" scoring guard, which is basically, I mean, I think if you compare him to a player right now, I mean, they compare him more to Westbrook than Dame Lillard, but if he gets a jump shot, like, he's a fiery competitor that goes hard every play, sort of like Dame Lillard. But, now you got Anthony Simons, Tajay Sharp, a couple other draft picks. It's everything Dame said he didn't want, right?
Yeah, but he's. I think if he wants, he's got to say he wants out.
Well,
I don't know if he could do that.
He played Will Smith's Miami on his Instagram right after the draft. Was his song.
And I think that's the perfect spot for him.
Yeah, him and Jimmy Butler together would be fun in the East. I would be excited to watch that and root for that.
Yeah, I've also said I would love to see Zion with the Heat, just because I just think that in that culture, he could be all we think he could be.
Yeah.
That's what I think, but that's not going to happen.
No, and it's hard to imagine a 23-year-old, he's got some issues, obviously, because the eating and the physical stuff he has going on seem beyond, you got to be, either something wrong with metabolism or something, because it doesn't make sense, right?
Right.
And I know he's got his...
we watched Jokic. We watched what he was able to do. That's want to. I mean, you have to want to.
Yeah. And again, want to at 23 isn't even that hard as far as losing the weight. You got to really work to gain all that weight at 23. And like I said, unless you have some sort of metabolism issue that has not been brought up in the media, and I feel like at this point his camp would have if they could have.
I think if there was anything to be said, I think it would already have been said.
Yeah. And again, I don't think most people care that he had, an affair with a stripper or porn star. Like, that's just kind of par for the course. But I think it's more like, I think that would be just such a minor story if it wasn't for all the conditioning and the injuries and the fact that he's played in like 37% of his games in his first 6 seasons. But every time you see him, he's brilliant, He's 25 points every night, super efficient shooting, 60% from the floor, like absolutely incredible. So
I think my three questions for the next couple weeks.
Okay.
Does Dame stay in Portland or leave? Does James Harden stay in Philadelphia or leave? And does Zion stay in New Orleans or leave? I mean, those are my 3 questions.
And I would throw a 4th question in there, which I think we may have gotten an answer to with something we're going to talk about next. But does Draymond Green feel like he wants to leave? But I feel like, we talked about it a little bit off air. Once Jordan Poole was traded for Chris Paul and the Jordan Poole piece was gone from the Draymond Green equation and the Warriors equation, I think that pretty much shows you that Draymond's probably coming back to the Warriors, right?
I think so. Although the flirtation with the Lakers was interesting.
It is, yeah. I mean, you could argue the team that lost in the probably was the second best team in basketball based on the way they played the Nuggets, right? Might have been the Lakers. I thought they gave the most, like all four of the games against the Lakers were close games.
They were good games.
They were good games. And, the Warriors, you're losing Jordan Poole. You already lost Wiseman. Kuminga and Moody don't seem like they're that great. Klay Thompson's a shell of himself. Do I have a better shot at winning another chip and maybe cementing my legacy in a different way as opposed to being the third guy? Maybe it bumps me up the chart a little bit if I go to the Lakers and I play with LeBron and AD and Austin Reeves and whoever else they bring in. Maybe that's, maybe a 38-year-old Chris Paul, Steph, and broken down Klay isn't enough to bring me back there, right?
Maybe, and maybe the question should be, what are the Lakers? The Lakers are going to do something. What are they going to do?
Yeah.
Maybe that should be the question.
Because
that's absolutely, we don't know.
Yeah. But the Lakers don't have any assets. They can't get a Dame. They could barely get a Chris Paul. They didn't really have the assets even to get Chris Paul. They only have one pick and no desirable players on their roster. And most of their contracts are, they could lose Austin Reeves. They could lose Rui Hachimura, whether that's good or bad. I mean, their only move is to get a big free agent and maybe go over the cap in a Draymond Green.
Yeah.
And then we talked Chris Paul. He doesn't really fit with this, outside of being a very high IQ player, he doesn't really fit with the Warriors, right, in their style. But we also said that maybe, come January, come February trade deadline, things don't work out with Chris Paul. Now I package Kuminga, Moody, and $30 million worth of Chris Paul of dead money to a team, and I bring in star X that's unhappy, and maybe that guy fits with what we do. Or like you said, maybe Chris Paul runs the bench unit and it's like a different, it's like hockey. It's like a whole different team, second unit with a different style. So.
Or is Chris Paul in transit?
Yeah.
Is he going to be in Golden State a little longer than he's in Washington? And do they already have a plan to move him?
It's hard to imagine because they did give up a first-round pick. Like you said, it's crazy that they were able to give up a 2030 first-round pick for Chris Paul, but they did.
Yeah, I'll comment about that in a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not sure where
I just don't know. I just don't see him fitting in on that team. I just don't.
No. But the Warriors are also in a weird transition, whether they bring Draymond back or not. Like, I know they're coming, they won a title in the last 3 years, so it's not like they're... But they have a lot of money wrapped up in an older part of the team. Unless Kuminga or Moody make a giant leap over the summer, none of those 3 lottery picks that were supposed to be the bridge to the next generation of Warriors look like they're the bridge to the next generation of Warriors, right? Wiseman got traded for a handful of second.
I really think that the Warriors' best days are behind them.
Yeah.
I just don't see them. Right now, I'd have to say I'm looking at Denver, then Phoenix, then the Lakers. Those 3.
And you can't count out teams like Oklahoma City with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and the squad they have down there. Sacramento. West is stacked.
Sacramento had a nice year.
And, we're not going to hype him up to an insane stat, but, Victor Wembanyama might scare some people, too. Depending on how quickly he develops and who they put around him. Like, that could be a team you wouldn't want to play.
Yeah.
And then the wild card of all wild cards is obviously New Orleans. When Zion is there, they were the 1-2 seed in the West this past season. And I know we just talked about how Zion can't seem to get his shit together, but if he does, that's another team in the West that I think the Warriors could not handle.
What do we think about Memphis now?
Oh, and I forgot all about Memphis. They got Marcus Smart, which I think we should probably talk about, because I feel like, he's an Oklahoma State guy. You love Marcus Smart.
I do.
I think he and Steven Adams combined are exactly what that team needs. They got rid of Dylan Brooks. Ja's going to have to take some time away from the team, but you bring in, I think Steven Adams and Marcus Smart are both really tough players that fit well in Memphis, right mentality, and I think they're going to add that level of leadership and maturity, that Marcus Smart's going to help be that leadership maturity that maybe will help Ja get off. But it sounds like, again, I'll Brian Windhorst for saying this, but I guess Ja has a lot of people around him saying the NBA is out to get him, which just seems ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
The NBA saw him as maybe the next face of the NBA.
Absolutely.
They let him slide on a lot of stuff. They kept a lot of stuff, that in their invest. Like, it took him brandishing a gun on screen for a second time for them to actually take any action. So it's like, I think it's the opposite. But if you have everybody around you saying they're out to get you, and you're buying into that, including your dad and some other people that are close to you, like, that's not good for you or Memphis. And that's why I think I keep forgetting Memphis, because, like, they need Ja. And I don't know when the light bulb is going to go off for him. If those are the people around him.
What did you think of the trade? Marcus Smart for Porzingis then?
If I'm Boston, I kind of get it, because Marcus Smart isn't quite the defensive player he once was. Although the last time they traded a 29-year-old defensive stopper to Memphis was Tony Allen, and Tony Allen had a nice little run in Memphis. But I think if you're Boston, you keep getting close to the hump and you can't get over the edge, right? Mm-hmm. And you were able to pick up 2 first-round picks and Porzingis basically for Marcus Smart. And that changes your team. I think you're pushing Tatum and Brown to the leadership role that maybe Marcus Smart had. I don't know. What do you think of it?
I would have rather seen him move Brown, kept Smart in the same trade.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea of moving Brown as well. Because it seemed like you could get pretty heavy value for Brown. Like, you could have built something around Dame, and you have Dame and Tatum. You certainly could have had Beal if you wanted, I think. I don't know if anyone, they really wanted him that bad. It seemed like there were other options with Brown, and I know the philosophy is...
I was thinking we might see a Brown for Dame trade.
Yeah.
I was really thinking we were going to see that.
And I know the philosophy...
And maybe we still will.
Yeah. And I know the philosophy is...
Although I think Dame wants to go to Miami.
And Dame has pointed out he does not want to go to Boston. He seems very... He's pointed out that Boston is not for him. For whatever that's worth. But I mean, I know the philosophy is if you got 2 6'8" wing defenders who can score, you can't get rid of any of them because they're so rare and they're both under 30. But I don't know, like you, I thought that was a good play. Porzingis played really well last year, and him and Robert Williams provide like a unique 1-2 punch at the center position.
And you've got to play Embiid a number of times during the course of the year.
You do, and Porzingis is the type of player where because he's such a good shooter, and people forget that, like, before Jokic and Embiid, like, it was Porzingis was the 7-foot unicorn. And, he can pull people away from the basket because if you leave him open, he'll nail shots on you all day. He's had health issues.
The only knock is, can he stay healthy? If he stay healthy, he'll make a difference.
And last year he stayed healthy, so...
Yeah. But I don't know what the Wizards are. I've got no idea.
I know Jordan Peele's going to get 35 shots a game, which will probably be pretty exciting for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's, again, the NBA is just dominating headlines, right? And they'll continue to do so. Because like you said, Zion, Dame, Draymond, you have all these players just, sitting out there, right? So, we'll have NBA.
My last basketball question before we move on. Where will Russell Westbrook play next year?
I really hope the Clippers. It seemed like such a nice fit for him. I know Paul George loves him. I know Kawhi loves him. And I don't know if you paid attention, but Wembanyama, Scoot Henderson, Brandon Miller, like half the people in the draft said Russ was their favorite player.
I know. I did hear that.
Which I thought was really nice, as we're a big pro-Russ podcast.
Yep.
But if it's not the Clippers, I don't know where he goes, right?
I don't know either.
And the Clippers kind of need him because he can stay healthy. And none of the other Clippers can stay healthy. But I guess that's...
how hard he plays, it's amazing that he can't stay healthy.
Yeah. And I guess that's another question we can throw out there is... After next season, Paul George and Kawhi, who the Clippers gave up pretty much everything they have until 2034, are both eligible for extensions. I'm sure they're in cahoots where you have to sign them both, or they both want to walk. And you can't imagine either one of them has very much trade value, right?
No, and you're building a new arena.
Yeah.
And with big prices. So, yeah, you got that's a team with problems.
Big problems. Yeah. I mean, if I was them, and I'm not, but my first call would be, I mean, I'm not sure I give a shit what Kawhi thinks, but I would probably call Kawhi and say, if we traded Paul George for Anthony Simons and Scoot Henderson and a future Blazers first round pick, how do you feel about that? Because then Dame gets his running mate, his veteran. And like I said, I think Scoot, for whatever he's going to be as a player,
I wouldn't make that trade.
What's that?
There's no way.
Who wouldn't?
I wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't either. But I mean, if you're stuck on Dame, right? If you're Portland and you want to give him that, and it's like, here's a veteran he would sign off on, I'm going to do it.
I'd say you got to do better than Paul George.
Yeah, but I'm not sure what.
You got to give me something better than Paul George.
You don't like playoff P, Dad?
No.
Yeah, I just, I'm just trying to, like I said, I think Scoot is going to be like I think he has potential, like they compare his game a little bit to Russ. I think he could have a Russ-like impact where he's going to just be a beloved in-your-city guy. He's got the personality, he's got the nickname, he plays his ass off. Like, I feel like a city that gets Scoot Henderson is going to be excited to have a Scoot in their life.
Yeah, I agree.
And like I said, that's why off air I talked about, like, there's no value in getting, Shaden Sharp, some picks, and Scoot for a guy like Zion. But I think a city like New Orleans, if he embraced the city and the city embraced him, like, they would be happier with a Scoot for the next decade of their lives, and maybe first and second round exits than whatever this toxic Zion situation is.
Well, I want to change gears and talk about the College World Series.
Okay.
It's the best College World Series I've seen in a few years. And LSU won last night, so they're up 1-0, best of 3, and they play again today.
Mm-hmm.
You got you probably have the top 3 players in the Major League Draft all in this game, all in this series. You got a guy from Florida, a pitcher from LSU, and an outfielder from LSU. Dylan Cruz, who they think is the number 1 pick. Skeens, who's the pitcher, who I like, and I hope the Pirates pick him number 1. And then I forget what the guy's name is from Florida, but he's ridiculous as well. I mean, really good players. And they got a guy that's not even eligible for the draft, and his nickname is Tommy Tank. And he's just like a big, burly home run hitter kind of a guy, and he had another one last night. They are fun to watch. Guys, the LSU pitcher struck out 17 players last night. The game went 11 innings. So the last 2 LSU victories have both been extra innings. Been great plays. It's just been a lot of fun to watch. I'm a big LSU fan. I think this will be if they win, it'll be their 7th national championship in baseball. They just got fun guys on their team. They're really fun to watch.
Why is he not eligible for the draft?
He's only a freshman. Or he's a sophomore. Yeah, he can't come out yet.
Oh, I thought baseball players were... I think you draft them right out of high school. Or is it if you go to college?
No. You can, but if you stay in, then you got to stay in 2 years.
Oh, okay. All right, that makes sense. I got confused.
But a lot of fun. And they're on again today, sandwiched between the Major League Baseball game in London with the Cardinals and the Cubs, and then the Astros and the Dodgers tonight. So 3-course meal on ESPN is what they're calling it. But a lot of fun to watch.
Nice. Very nice.
Staying on baseball, last night my Angels
25 runs.
Won 25-1, and it was 23 to nothing in the 3rd inning.
Yeah. And Ohtani was only 1 of 7.
Yes. And what I found hard to believe is the Angels went back to back on 3 pitches. And it's the 2nd time that's happened to that pitcher.
Yikes.
In his career.
I
So he also had 3 times, 3 pitches, 3 home runs when he pitched for the Blue Jays.
I thought you were going to tell me that was only the second time it's happened in like the last 50 years of Major League Baseball.
No, it happened twice to the same guy.
That's pretty nuts.
It is real nuts.
Yeah.
But I flipped it on for a little while last night. They just couldn't get anybody out. I mean, they were just hitting the ball.
And there's no run rule in the Major League, so.
And that's what they said on the highlights this morning. There's no mercy rule.
So you can't get to Dairy Queen early. Get that blizzard.
No.
Cool yourself off. Feel better.
They were fun to watch last night, but just like I said, College World Series has been amazing. I'm really looking forward to watching it again today. And if it goes tomorrow night, then that Skeens will be able to pitch again. And he looked unbelievable. So, I mean, they're a fun team to watch. They're cocky. They're arrogant. They're fun. They have a good time in the dugout. LSU just there's swashbucklers.
Well, that's nice to see.
Yeah.
Yeah. And where are your Pirates sitting right now?
They're sitting fifth and fading.
Yeah, it's a real bummer. I mean, there's 5 games out. Pardon me, a hiccup.
I mean, they had good pitching again last night. Couldn't hit, went extra innings, they lost. Good pitching. They won in the 9th inning. We'll see.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Cincinnati Reds are a lot of fun to watch, though.
Yeah.
They've had sellout crowds. They won 12. I think they won 12 in a row. The most games they won since 1957.
It's weird though. Like I know it's not the biggest thing in the world, but like the Cubs are the only one in the entire division with a plus run differential. Whereas you look at like you look at a lot of the like Tampa Bay has 148 plus. The Twins are plus 31. The Rangers are plus 154. The Angels we talked about are plus 42, and then like you get to the Central, and it's a lot of negative run differential.
Yeah, none of them are very good.
Yeah, I guess I was like, maybe they're just not very good.
The Reds are hitting a lot of home runs in that little ballpark.
Yeah.
So, entertainment question for you.
Okay.
So, we get Harrison Ford back as Indiana Jones this week, right?
Technically, yeah. Him and a CGI replication, yeah.
Okay. And it said whatever his final thing, he's been searching for this his entire life. Well, we know it's not the Holy Grail because he found that in the version with Sean Connery.
Yeah, it's the Dial of Destiny, which I think is just a completely made up thing for the movie, right?
So I'm trying to figure out what he's been searching for his entire life.
That's for Disney.
That's the only thing making me curious.
Well, they just need to recapture the box office, and they're still sticking with nostalgia over original property. So, I mean,
the last Bruce Willis Die Hard movie wasn't that good.
No, the last Indiana Jones movie wasn't that good.
And I'm figuring this was not going to be that good either.
No, most people remember the Crystal Skull was pretty crap. And I will say, it looks like they did a good job on his face in some of those de-aging processes.
Yeah.
But I think as we learned with the Scorsese movie, you can de-age the face to a certain degree, but I feel like you got like depending on how old you are, it's like a plus 10, minus 20. You maybe get 20 years, but you can't change the way somebody moves. And somebody at 80 just doesn't move the way somebody at 30 moves.
So how old is Harrison Ford now?
81.
You're kidding me.
No.
Why would he make this movie?
Because he did that Yellowstone show. He did the Apple TV show with Jason Segel. He's been just the usually curmudgeon, seem like I'm ungrateful that I have a career, Harrison Ford. Maybe as he's gotten, as he's nearing the end, or not the end, but, like as he's getting older at the end of his career, like maybe he's just embracing all of his stuff again,
Oh.
Because I feel like he's got to, I know that, we've learned from history that you technically never have enough money for whatever that reason, like the dragons in Tolkien stories where there's just never enough treasure. But I can't imagine Harrison Ford does not have enough money to retire on if he didn't,
No.
Maybe he's finally realizing what a cool life acting is and he's getting into it finally.
Well, I'm going to watch it, but I'm not going to go to the theater to watch it. I'll wait.
No. My partner
But
really
the
wants.
the other movie, I don't know what it is, Jace. The Jennifer Lawrence movie that's coming out,
Yeah, it looks
the
good.
comedy.
Yeah,
It looks good.
and I do think
I
that.
mean, it looks like Bad Boys and all those other comedies like that, right?
Yeah,
But it looks like it could be funny.
yeah, and she pointed out. I watched a little interview with her, and she was talking about like, you know, as much as people love streaming and watching in their house, she's like, the comedy is still one of those movies that like really benefit. Like, it's not about technology; it's about being in a room full of infectious laughter. That's going to make you enjoy the movie more than it would if you watch it by yourself. Like, just that,
Yeah.
yes, you have incredible, HD 65-inch screens in almost every home now, and surround sound, and you can recreate an awesome horror movie or even like a spectacle like a Marvel movie. Like, despite what people think, like, you can have a pretty good TV experience, but you can't have that everybody is laughing and you're laughing along with them in the crowd kind of thing. It is an infectious thing, laughter. So
Are you going to see it?
I don't know. We've thought about it. My wife really wants to see Insidious. Did you see the trailer for that?
For which one?
The new Insidious movie where the guy's in the MRI machine and he starts freaking out. He looks down and then the creature's crawling right into the MRI machine with him, which looks pretty
No, I
creepy.
didn't see the preview.
Yeah, it's a good trailer. Like I said, you're watching somebody go back in the MRI machine. He pulls his earbuds out and he's like, "Hello, hello," and then he looks down and he sees his feet, and then this creature just rolls right, just coming right at him like crawling crazy. I mean, you already got a little bit of the claustrophobia of the MRI, so.
Yeah.
Or CQ. Is it MRI? I don't know what that one is, but
Yeah, MRI. Yeah.
yeah,
Magnetic resonance imaging.
yeah. And I guess we can go entertainment now. I watched Evil Dead Rise last night, the new Evil Dead movie, and
And
it's tough because it's a much more well done horror movie than a lot of horror movies that have come out in the last decade. But Evil Dead started out as a very silly movie because you had Bruce Campbell, who is sort of like Danny McBride or Leslie Nielsen, where they're just inherently kind of funny. And, along with the over the top gore, you also had like this just silly character that was just sort of interacting with everybody. And the new movies since 2013 have all been very dark and serious. They still have the same evil book that possesses people and turns them into demons and yada yada yada, but they tried to throw in a couple of like funny lines, but they were delivered very straight, and they just came off as flat. It's like, it's sort of that nostalgia of like, we're throwing in these Bruce Campbell lines, but we're not doing it in a way that really adds to the movie. Because if you're not doing them in a silly way, the silly lines straight just seem kind of stupid.
mm-hmm.
And I say this with almost all horror movies, like, I want more story. Give me more lore. Like, you've got this Necronomicon, carved in flesh, etched in blood. Like, give me a little bit more about it, Don't just show the book and then show the demons and then it just gore everywhere. Like, give me a little more substance, a little more story, hook me in a little bit more. So I don't not recommend it, but I will say there is a shit ton of blood, so much blood. So if that's a deterrent for you, then don't watch it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I do have a food moment. It's going to be a negative food moment, though.
We have those from time to time. They're just as informative for readers and listeners and all that stuff.
Okay. So in Tampa, there's a new barbecue place called the Brisket Shop.
Okay.
It's exactly where Holy Hog Barbecue was. Remember Holy Hog down in Armenia?
I do. It's pretty good.
It was real good. And so the Brisket Shop is like maybe 6 or 7 times the size of the original Holy Hog.
Okay.
Because they also sell grills, charcoal, wood,
Okay.
everything you need to have a barbecue. So, and I looked at the ratings on Google and Yelp, and they were like 4.8, 4.9.
That's pretty solid.
Pretty solid. So I decided I was, really anticipating how great this was going to be. And so I went and I got a brisket sandwich on a baguette is how they serve it.
Okay.
And it's just loaded with brisket.
So far, you haven't deterred me yet.
But what I'll say is, it wasn't trim brisket. So, I mean, there were big, huge hunks of fat chopped up in there, too.
Did they offer the normal when you go to... If you go to a good barbecue place, they offer either lean or wet or a mix?
Yes. No, they did not.
Oh. You have to offer that.
Chop it up. It's fast service, and I mean, you get it.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of brisket there, but it was highly seasoned, and it was very uneven. It was fatty and greasy.
Yeah. No, you gotta...
So I was anticipating that the next time you visited, we would go there. No, it's not as good as Mission or Four Rivers.
Yeah, that's sad. I mean, no, those are good places, though. It's not like you're losing out to not winners, but it just...
No. But 4.8, 4.9, I don't know. I didn't see it.
Yeah. Well, I had a couple... I was in San Francisco and Sonoma this past week. First will be I'll give my negative review. Canoeing kind of sucks. I'm going to leave it at that. Not the best. And if you're, it's a good relationship test as you guys have to canoe together to try to get down the stream, and it'll do stuff to you.
What river were you on?
What river were we on?
Was it the Russian River?
The Russian River, yeah. What am I talking about? So the Russian River, yeah. Part of it is there was a little miscommunication. We were told that if you paddled your whole time, it's going to be about a 2.5 hour, 10-mile journey, right? But we were also told if you just sort of let the current take you, it's like a leisurely 4-hour sort of float, which is what we had, probably half the party had in mind. Like, we had a cooler full of drinks on one of the canoes. Like, that's sort of the mindset we had going in. And if you don't pedal, you won't go anywhere. Or not pedal. If you won't go anywhere. And then they also failed to mention that around 4 o'clock, because you had to be back at 5 at their meeting spot, the tide sort of shifts and the wind kicks up under this bridge you have to meet them at. So then for the last mile, you're basically paddling against the current into the wind. And they failed to mention that part as well. So, yeah.
This was like work.
It was. The part of me that felt like I wasn't going to get a lot of exercise this week was really excited because we got a lot of exercise, but that was not it. We did go to a very unique place. It's called the Wicked Shack. It is a Boston place. Like they mentioned Fenway Park. They have Fenway hot dogs on New England style hot dog runs. And they specialize, technically, they have soft serve and they have like a snow coney slush type situation.
Uh-huh.
But the specialty is to put them together. I just got soft serve and it was delicious. Maria got the Boston hot dog, which came on the toasted New England hot dog bun, lobster roll bun. Mm-hmm. But it would be like a fruit scoop of slushy surrounded by like a flavor of soft serve is their specialty.
Oh, that's kind of like Jeremiah's.
Yeah, I've seen those places pop. That combination just doesn't appeal to me. No,
I want one or the other.
Yeah, but they had, like I said, the soft serve was really good. Everyone seemed to really enjoy the slushy aspect of it too. So, and then we went to a place called the Hidden Spot, which is in San Francisco. And I wish I remembered all the names of the places we went to, but Hidden Spot's like a really good sandwich shop. So it's something to think about.
What kind of sandwich?
I got their burger, which was excellent. But they have a number of it's mainly like warm, hot sandwiches, I would say. And we went to some incredible Mexican restaurant that I cannot remember the name of for the life of me, but it was amazing. But I'll try to figure it out and I'll name it next week.
Okay.
And I have not driven on hills, having lived in Florida and New Orleans for a long time. And I will say being parked at a red light or stopped at a red light is kind of terrifying on a hill again.
In the hill in San Francisco?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I'm sitting there and the car behind me feels like it's like right on my butt, and I'm like, I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to hit the pedal fast enough so I don't roll backwards. But I didn't. But just if you're in San Francisco and you are driving, keep that in mind. That to be prepared mentally, I guess. We used to have that in Pittsburgh, but I never drove in Pittsburgh when I was a little kid, you know?
Yeah, it's steep, no question.
And again, maybe cars don't naturally roll back unless it's an automatic stick, but that fear hit me all of a sudden. I was like, oh my God. I'm like, what am I going to do?
No, those are steep, no question.
And some people told me they do a 2 foot where they'll have, when on the hill, they'll switch to the left foot for the brake and the right foot for gas so they can just pop on right away. But I was like, luckily it worked out. I just was throwing it out there for people if you're visiting. Like, just be prepared that you get a little nervous on the hills.
I'm in episode 5 through 5 episodes of The Crowded Room that you recommended to me. And it's outstanding. It's a very revealing story that keep peeling it back like an onion. You get a little bit more each week, and there's some real curveballs in it. It's really good. So I would highly recommend that one.
Okay.
And I'm on my way to Pittsburgh on Tuesday for they've already unveiled the uniform. They've already talked about it on ESPN. They've already had it open, but they unveiled their City Connect, which has a big PGH on the front, which I'm not crazy about. I'd rather it had said the Berg. And they have these little intricate designs. They're supposed to represent the bridges in the Three Rivers.
Yeah.
But if they didn't tell you that, you'd never know.
Like constellations.
It's not like it makes an impression.
Yeah. I don't mind them overall. Like, you sent me the email and I looked at the pictures.
Yeah, it's black and gold. It's Pittsburgh. I mean,
yeah.
It would have to be black and gold. It couldn't be anything else.
No, it looks cool. It looks good enough, yeah. Yeah.
So Mom and I are our friends at Fanatics made us each one. So we'll post our picture on Tuesday night in our new City Connect uniforms.
Nice. Well, I think that's about it for this week, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would, watch the College World Series, and I would definitely say keep an eye out on these NBA. Lots of movement still in the NBA. And if you've got NBA TV, make sure or wherever it's going to be broadcast, I would definitely check out some of the Summer League games and get a first look at Victor and see what you think.
Yeah, you're never going to see a player like, you've never seen his equivalent, I would say, physically. I know people have said Ralph Sampson is the closest, but a lot of people probably have never seen Ralph Sampson play, but I don't even know if he was quite what Wembanyama is.
And they were trying to make Ralph Sampson play a different position. They were making him be this center, and he never was that guy.
Yeah.
And so Victor, you'll see, be able to do many, many different things. It'll be fun to watch.
Very fun. Thanks everybody for listening, and I guess we'll talk to you next week.